And now, to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules and recipes of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. Have you ever wanted to leverage AI powered tools to get information about or change the configuration of your website?
Uh huh.
There's a module for that. It's called AI Agents, and it was created in August of 2024 by Marcus Johansson of FreelyGive. It has a 1.0.1 version available, which supports Drupal 10.3 and 11, and it is actively maintained. In fact, that release was in the past week and was part of the significant effort made to get a stable release of the AI modules that are included in Drupal CMS. Does have security coverage, and there's actually a documentation folder included within the module's code base. It has 30 open issues, 7 of which are bugs, and it is currently in use by 119 sites according to Drupal.org, but I suspect that number will increase rapidly once people start using Drupal CMS. Now, in AI terminology, an agent is a system able to interact with its own environment, collect data, and use the data to perform self-determined tasks. The AI agents module is a framework to provide agents that can provide a variety of functions in your Drupal website. It depends on the AI module that we had Jamie Abrams on the podcast to talk about back in episode 468. The module includes plugins that provide 3 agents, namely a field type agent that can create or edit fields using the field API or answer questions about the fields that your site has defined, a content type agent that can create, edit, or answer questions about node types, and a taxonomy agent that can do the same for your site's vocabularies. Now, anyone who has seen the Dries Note AI demos from DrupalCon Barcelona or Singapore will have seen these agents in action, although in those examples through interaction in a chatbot. Technically, the plugins are UI agnostic, however, so theoretically you could trigger an agent in other ways. Today, however, AI agents power the AI chatbot that you can use in the AI recipe included in the recently released Drupal CMS 1.0. Now, the AI agents module also includes some submodules. An experimental form integration submodule adds UI elements to the interfaces for managing fields, content types, and vocabularies. An Explorer submodule provides debugging tools, and an experimental extra submodule provides agents for working with web forms and views. I have also seen a demo of some work underway to provide an ECA agent, so you may soon be able to get your Drupal site to build out ECA models based on the business logic you described to it. So let's talk about AI agents.
I would say before we do that, if you haven't, dear listener, seen the AI videos from the Dries notes, pause now, go watch those, and then come back because they're awesome. The interaction with the AI agents, with the AI bot through chat is like you're just like, man, I wish building websites was like this all the time.
I will say one thing that I think is recently implemented. It may be in the Singapore Dries Note video, but I'm pretty sure it was not in the Barcelona one. Is they've added a review step. So rather than it just going and making changes to your Drupal website, it will actually say these based on what
Yeah.
you've told me. Here's what I think I'm going to go ahead and do, and then
Mhm.
you basically give it that confirmation step before it actually changes your website.
Yeah, I seem to remember it in Barcelona where it was kind of like, I understood what you said to be this. Is this what you want me to do? And you're like, yes. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna go do it. But maybe there's maybe it's been improved upon. But I mean, I think that I'm interested in seeing how people end up using kind of this framework to like advance that. I think like I don't know. I feel like there could be like a commerce agent, right? Where it allows you to like interact more specifically with commerce, Drupal commerce and create products, do those sorts of things. I mean, listen, anybody that's worked on a commerce site knows that like creating variants of products is like uber painful. So like if an AI could go do that for you based on like a table of data, that would
Mhm.
be 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I think the 2 things I'm really excited about, at least from how I understand this module works, is one is having the ability to kind of fork the functionality. Because right now you kind of the way it's built, you kind of say like, I want to trigger on this field, do thing X, right? Do prompt X. But sometimes I already have clients that sometimes want like do thing X if this is true, do thing Y if that is true. And I think with agents, you can kind of have an agent that does both. And I forget what it's called, but something on top of that that helps select which agent to apply to a particular case. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the agent is the one doing the decision. Um, but I think that that's pretty powerful. Um, the other piece, and I didn't hear you say that this was in it yet, but I just want the ability to have it report on and manipulate content on the site. Like what like almost like one of the more painful pieces of maintenance of sites is as the information architecture evolves over years, keeping things kind of in sync and clean. And the ability to be like just occasionally be like, hey, we're introducing this new field architecture thing and deprecating this other one in content, like give me a quick report on how much is affected and what it would look like to automatically apply that. Because of course you can build tools to do that, but if you could just like very quickly um, use some sort of chat interface to be like, hey, we're modifying this vocabulary and splitting it to three. What does that look like? That would save that would have the potential of saving so much time and effort. But
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I did notice on the project page it talks about the taxonomy agent as being able to manipulate. It mentions the vocabularies and terms, so I don't know off the top of my head how much these agents are able to actually work with the instances of either node types or vocabularies, or if it really is configuration only. But I have to think that's something that's got to be coming at some point.
yeah, that'd be powerful.
I saw a demo, is it Marcus? Yeah, a demo Marcus did where he was having it create terms as well. So we'll reach out and get, get data. So his example was like soccer players or something. He was writing that. So yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated to check it out. I mean, I've seen the demos. I still, for me, the concept of AI agents is still a little bit fuzzy because it's like it feels like it's more like a spectrum. Like on one side is like super autonomous and doing lots of stuff on its own, versus kind of like maybe a little bit agentic. And so, because when I was looking at the demo, it's like it seems like the chat's like a dispatcher where it's just like, okay, either create a taxonomy, vocabulary, or whatever, or create a content type with fields. And that's kind of it. I mean, you do have confirmation, stuff like that. So it's definitely down the path of agentic. I guess I want to see how much it can do autonomous. I mean, there's no real limit that's keeping you from making it do more things autonomously, but that's the thing I'd really like to see in a demo or something. If it can do that like right now, or if it's just if it's literally just sort of like a dispatcher where it's just like, okay, do this, okay, it runs off and does that one thing. Okay, now do this. I've built tools like that. I don't know if I would call them agents just yet. Um, hopefully on that path.
Based on my review, looking at the demos, looking at the code, I saw two really interesting use cases. Nick, you mentioned one, which is kind of bulk managing of content. If someone wants to move a term from one vocabulary to another, everything gets attached. I think that's great. I think another one is almost like a support for training. So for like a new Drupal developer,
Mm.
this AI agent could be really helpful on, oh, we need to make an entity reference. A person might not know what an entity reference is, but being able to tie content to a taxonomy vocabulary and not know how to do that. So the AI agent could help with that. Um, you know, in my in my brain though, I'm fighting the urge of using it to give up a level of control. So if you're using it to manage your content model, you're giving some control of it unless you're going to be really prescriptive in your prompts to it, which at that point you might as well, if you're making structure changes to your site, you may just go ahead and do it and it may be faster in the long run.
I I wonder if there's a way to train these agents to use talking Drupal as a source, because we have an episode where we talk about when to use a taxonomy versus an entity reference. And that might be an
I would
interesting.
I would suggest that nobody use me for a source for their AI. I'm just throwing that out there. It sounds like a
Well,
terrible idea.
well, we had an expert on to talk about it, and so we could certainly, I think we can rely on Benji Fisher to give
Mhm.
accurate advice on how to architect a site there. So, um, but yeah, I think the thing is, training is interesting. It's just one. I'm wondering how we solve like that specific issue, right? It's really complex sometimes. I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
it's easy, but sometimes it's complex to know when you should use a
Right.
taxonomy reference to tie things together versus just direct references. And how do you, I mean, this is just a general, maybe we're getting a little bit too much into the show topic right now for Module of the Week, but how do you ensure that you're um, conveying those principles appropriately and at the appropriate level, right? When somebody's first introduced to the concept, you don't want to be like, well, here's a 6-hour thesis on when to use which. Um, but a way to, I mean, and that's true just in normal training too. Like, how do you parse it or chunk it in a way that it's parsable in small chunks, but let them know that there's more thought that goes into it, the more complex the
Mhm.
use case is.
Right. I mean, in theory, you're setting the rules, like you're fine tuning it or whatever. You're giving it all of you're feeding it like your business rules and all that stuff.
I j
Yeah, I also wanted to touch quickly on the question Scott raised about sort of the potential for this as kind of a learning tool. In the one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the Singapore Dries note was that they actually, in the section on AI, had somebody on from, I want to say it was the University of Edinburgh,
Yes.
who's doing the UX testing for Drupal CMS, and they had done testing of the AI agent without telling people that it was the AI agent that they were testing them on. So it was just sort of getting their, sort of incidental feedback, and it sounds like the feedback was really positive. People maybe found that it took a little bit of getting used to, but as they gave it some of that feedback in terms of which things they want or didn't, that it seemed to really sort of learn exactly how to give them the kind of results that they were after. So certainly from that standpoint, it sounds really, really promising.
I'm gonna reserve my skepticism and my doom and gloom for the show. But I mean, where Scott says, "Oh, it could be a great training tool," I say, "Huh, it could be a great tool not to have to tell a junior developer how to do something and just say, go do this." And
Hmm.
I don't know if the AI does it 95% right, it's better than a junior developer only doing it 75% right, right? And I know I'm going to get so many people that are going to be like, what are you saying? Like, they're not going to love that. But that's kind of where my head went with that statement. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't educate your junior developers. I'm just saying there are going to be people out there that have that point of view.
Mhm. Well, what if it was more, thinking of like the audience for Drupal CMS,
Oh
the
yeah.
people that don't know Drupal, they don't know
Well,
coding, you know, helping them understand how the
yeah.
things are wired together.
I mean, I think that's an excellent way to frame it too, because like when I talk to my development teams about like platformatizing things and like making things easier for users to use, I have to kind of like drench it in the fact that like, guys, this isn't going to reduce the amount of work that you guys have to do. It's just going to change the type of work that you're doing. So now
Mhm.
instead of entity referencing two content types together, right, and saving that into config and putting in a PR and all that stuff, right? Like now, a site builder can do that, right, with an AI assistant, and you can go build a new feature. You can build a whole new agent for that AI for them to be able to use, right? Which to me, like in my very small developer brain, feels like a funner problem. Funner is not a word, folks. A problem to solve than to just be like kind of checking boxes and doing the basic Drupal stuff.
Mhm.
All
The
right.
piece I struggle with, I mean, I guess it would be take us into a whole Drupal CMS conversation. I want to withhold some judgment till I evaluate it. It's hard for me to picture like a marketer, non-technical person building out a site that could be a production website. Even if you have the tools, just like Drupal has had so much available in the interface for forever since I started using it. You can do so much that you can't do in other systems, and that's been an advantage of Drupal. But that doesn't necessarily mean like a marketer role is the best one equipped to do that. It's great that they can do that to play around and figure stuff out, where that a less technical person can get more done. It's just like, are they really going to be able to do something that winds up in like a live production environment? That's
That
that's
that
a reach for me.
that's a goal. That is the goal. And I think that like when you compare, and we're gonna back up this path and continue on with the show in a minute. But I think like that is the goal, right? That is the promised land. And I think when you look at other platforms like Squarespace or WordPress or whatever, right? Like a marketer could go on to Squarespace and build a website and have it
Yeah.
and put it out and have it be production ready. Like it is a major downfall of Drupal that Drupal doesn't have the ability to do that, right? In my opinion, right? Drupal does a lot of things great. I just posted a blog post over the weekend about how great Drupal is, but the perception of Drupal is not so great, right? And I think like Drupal CMS is going to be a big step in the direction of, hey, Drupal is really great and does a lot of things. And now, hey, marketers, you can build a website and have it be production ready, right? When you're done, right? I mean, I think that's something that it's striving to do. Whether it does that in the 1.0 version, I don't
It's
know, but like
interesting.
that's how the web works. We iterate, right? Okay, Martin. Well, you've clearly eclipsed all of your previous module of the week segments with this one because it was highly topical and very, very informative. So thank you for bringing that to us. If folks wanted to connect or suggest a module of the week, how could they go about doing that?
We're always excited to talk about potential candidates for module of the week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly on all of the Drupal and social channels as Mandklug.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
See you then.